Hello, everyone. Hopefully, everyone's doing well. Dang it, what's our channel name? Okay, Enlightened Living is truth and oneness discussion with a Scorpio and an Aquarius having the discussion. So basically, we just talk about interesting things that we find interesting that we come across. It's just our opinion on stuff, and if anyone else finds anything interesting, they can research it more. But anyway, so I came across a video the other day on YouTube. It's by the channel is called Giving Voice to the Wisdom, I believe. And the video, it's one that came out about 2 months ago. It's called Thank You Galactic Brothers and Sisters. Basically, this video is about solar flares that were meant to hit the Earth in 2012 and did not, quote. Okay. And I thought this was an interesting video because in the video he talks about how I think he's reading a transcript of some sort from these people are talking about this event. It was July, I think 23rd, 2012, with these I think it was three massive solar flares are supposed to be hitting the surface of the Earth and wreaking havoc on everything, and everyone would have been dead by December. And what was interesting about it is that we're talking about that too, but the point of the video too was that our government knew about this, and rather than tell the public about these solar flares that were happening or gonna happen, what they did instead was go to their bunker sites underground to hide during this time in case this actually did happen. I guess they didn't want to die. And so people didn't find out about these solar flares that had taken place or were going to take place until 2 years later. So in 2014, NASA and these places started telling the story about, yeah, a couple of years ago we were all supposed to die. People were like, what? And what else was interesting about this? The point that I missed, but basically that's the gist of the story. So we can pick it up from there.
Okay, so some of the things that are like really interesting about this, especially when you think about like how the government knew about it and then they kind of disappeared. These are the people that are in power a lot of times. They get these kinds of information, but it's not exactly like how it's portrayed when they handed this
So are you
information
saying
back
that
out.
they? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you so soon.
No, it's okay. So instead of it something being like we're all gonna die, it's like all this stuff is based on like frequencies and energy and upgrades for the earth and the sun and things as a whole. Like you have to look at it from a different perspective than what they're feeding it to you, because the whole like idea of like NASA's perspective of us being a ball flying at a gaining speed throughout the universe.
Okay, so what are you trying to say? That the government, yes, they knew about this, but they weren't running to their bunkers because they knew something different about solar flares and what the general public knows about? Is that what you're just saying?
Absolutely.
You're confusing me. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. As I was saying, it's like it's from when you look at it from their perspective, it's like yes, it looks like okay, a solar flare almost incinerated us, but like what they know, which a lot of people need to start figuring out, is we are not that. We are on a flat plane, and the sun and the earth are always going to be where they're at.
Okay, alright, so let me interrupt you again for a minute. Alright, so the okay, so you're saying though, okay, so why would they run and hide without? All right, so we know. All right, so just so everyone listening to this, both of us, the Scorpio here and the Aquarius here, we both know that the sun and moon and Earth, the whole solar system setup is not what NASA and all these people are telling us it is. We don't live in a on a spinning ball, traveling billions or millions of miles through space or whatever. The sun is not however billion miles away. I've forgotten the numbers. Go look it up. Okay. We're on a some sort of stationary, relatively flat plane structure. That's the Earth plane. It's got multiple dimensions. And the sun and the moon are fixed light points. I don't know where the source of the sun's light comes from, but what we see in the sky are fixed light points that rotate over above the Earth. Um, and what else? And they're not billions of miles away. They're probably 5,000 feet. What was that?
Well,
Miles. There we go. um, and the sun is not the danger or scary thing that we've been taught that it is. Okay, so there's a lot of that goes into these stories about whenever you look up, because this story it seems like it's starting to resurface. Oh, back in 2012 we all could have died because of these massive solar flares and yada yada yada, whatever. But the thing is, because they want to, the sun is not what they're telling us it is. Basically, okay, I'll leave it at that till I get my thoughts back together.
okay, so as you're saying, it's like they promote these fantastical ideas of like what we are and where we're living, because like the truth is something that they don't want people to know quite yet, and that's why like their responses to things have to be like equally as fantastical. It's like so that with their perspective, it's okay. We're flying through the universe, we're on a ball, and the sun is getting bigger and it's shooting out solar flares. And these solar flares, if they come close to us or like they hit the Earth, we're doomed. But in reality, we're, we're on a fixed plane and the sun is actually here with us. And what it's actually doing is it's actually a living entity, also, just like the Earth and like the people, it's very conscious. And what's happening is the frequencies here change. And certain people and certain things can't withstand the change of frequencies. And I believe what they were running away from was like the change of frequency that was happening, quote unquote solar flare energy, whatever. It's like that the sun is evolving, it's changing, and it's
Okay,
waking back up.
so you're saying that the solar flares would have changed the frequency of the Earth at that time to a point where a lot of people may not have been ready for potentially, but definitely the government was scared of, so they went to hide underground because they didn't want to be exposed to the changes in the frequencies because it may have damaged them.
Yes,
Okay.
because it's like when I'm thinking how they're trying to like give you kind of keywords like solar flare, maybe like solar flare up. Maybe it's like the flaring up of something. Like when you have a rash, it flares up, and it's the sun itself is getting more powerful, more energy, more frequency, changing. It's evolving. It's becoming more awake from its dormant time, and like what they're fearing is that instead of just the typical like, oh no, there's a solar flare coming to incinerate us. Because in reality, it's like if you think something like that fantastical, it's like if a solar flare hit the Earth, what's the bunker gonna do to stop it anyways?
But they're underground though.
It
What if
doesn't
it
matter
was
because like the
underground?
idea is like if these solar flares have all these different kinds of light rays and magnetisms and stuff like that, if it hits, it penetrates and it hits our quote unquote core, it'll manipulate that, and it doesn't matter if you're underground. It's gonna just like destroy
Well,
everything
so the
anyways.
idea behind these solar, they've already said, so yeah, the solar flares don't seem to harm, wildlife and plant life and whatnot. What it does is it messes up the electrical and technology systems, and they always bring up the Carrington event or whatever it's called back in 1859 or whatever.
Yeah.
There was a solar flare that hit, and it burned the electrical wire that was the one that was there, I guess, at that time. So they concluded that now, if there was some kind of solar flare at that magnitude that hit the Earth, all of our electricity stuff would burn up, and people would die from that, I guess.
It's kind of funny when you think about it. Um,
But you don't think that's true either, though.
I
It would
don't.
short out. I think it would short out a lot of the technology and electrical systems potentially. Depending on what the frequency of these things are running at, because like we're saying, this is a frequency energy thing. Like, so you keep saying the sun is waking up and reawakening. So the whole planet, our whole system, our consciousness of humanity, everything's kind of raising its frequency and waking up. That's what's happening right now, in case anyone was wondering.
Mhm.
Like, what else would we talk about on this channel, right? um, and so these, and I think back in 2012, these flares that were coming toward the Earth, the thing is, for all we know, they might have actually hit or came to the Earth, and there was some kind of communication and upgrade in energy, or there was a shift in dimensions, or something obviously shifted, I think, then to either kind of they might maybe the process maybe they were expecting like all that energy to hit at once, and like you said, so they went to hide because if that all the energy did hit at once and the frequency raised dramatically at that time, that would have screwed up a lot of people potentially. I don't know if their frequency wasn't ready to match that increased frequency. Is this making sense still?
Yes, yes, yes. Because a lot of people that understand, like, are knowing people, it's like they keep talking about like how people's frequency needs to change or raise up, whatever, as this world keeps changing. And some of these people have very dense energy, especially like when
We
you.
like talked about that. I want to get back to like this. I want to
Okay.
explain this particular solar flare event to because like every time I look and see people talking about this on the internet or whatever, it's always from the round Earth perspective. And oh my gosh, if these solar flares would have hit, all of our technology would be gone. And I just want to explain it. People need to basically to really understand this event that possibly actually did happen in 2012 or maybe shifted a little bit. We need to understand exactly what's going on overall and also understand the structure that we actually are reside in to fully understand what happened and what is happening still and what's meant to be happening, right? This is not a oh my gosh, those solar flares were because what they say is that the solar flares were their direction was the word hit, so they didn't hit the earth at that time, so we were all saved. Like that's not like really how we need to be looking at it, because that's not the truth, right?
Yeah.
But in some ways, that maybe there's
There's
a little
truth to
truth
it.
to it. There you go.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to it than that, also. And then I basically, yeah, I just wish people would kind of get the full picture so they can understand what's really happening here. The sun is meant to extend its solar energy to the earth because that's how life force energy and nu- nutrition, I don't know, upgrades in consciousness get to like the life on earth, the planet earth, and earth itself too. There's like a dance between these two entities, sort of, and so people shouldn't be scared whenever they hear of solar flares hitting the earth, because this is how it's done. I don't know
Yeah.
how else to explain that.
It's like the sun itself is kind of like gaining its energy back. It's like it's been
Okay,
hindered for a long time.
and we got this. So this makes sense to us because what we see the sun, even in the last year, you can look at it and see that it's almost, I would say it's almost twice as bright as it was a year ago,
Yeah, if not
and
more.
if not more. And it's not necessarily hotter. It's just big and
And
bright, and
brilliant.
the light that's coming off of it is a white light almost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is, like I said, this is different than it was even a year ago. So if anyone out there sun gazes, you will see the difference in the sun even from a year ago. But someone who also channels, I forget who they channel. Uh, the her YouTube channel is called. Oh gosh, why am I forgetting this? Hold on, give me a minute.
Okay, I'll
Oh,
just.
Rachel Delmar,
Yeah.
and she channels a consciousness that talks about the Earth and basically the upgrades and of consciousness that are happening right now, and how the Earth and the Sun are playing their roles in all this too. And so, if anyone wants to go to her channel, they should, and maybe they can. A lot of her recent stuff. No, Jessica Delmar. Her channel name is Jessica Delmar. And if anyone's interested more in how just the consciousness changes are happening and the energy changes are happening with the Earth and the Sun, you can listen to her stuff. Um, but also, like we were saying, if you actually just go outside and see, you can see for yourself how things have changed with the Earth and then with the Sun. Like I said, even in the last year. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's one of the things also about the whole like solar flare idea is they want people to fear the sun. It's just another way to have them fear it. It's like it's something that's very much a part of our like system that we live in. And if you have
Very
this
important
idea,
part of
yeah,
it.
it's very integral part to it. It's like everything. Yeah, I mean, literally, you get energy, and if you can go stare at the sun, and like it can wake you up better than a cup of coffee when you get used to the fact that like you can just wake up in the morning and watch the sunrise and stare at the sun gazing. It's like the idea with these solar flares is like it's just the sun changing, but they want you to be afraid of it. They want you to also fear anything that might happen. Like the idea of like, oh no, 1859, the telegraph machines like had started having sparks. It's like the wires themselves didn't mess up. It was the receivers, the telegraph machines, which is all about electrical energy being sent. That's the whole do like that's that system. It's based off of energy being transferred. So these receiving points had sparks flying, and there's some fire. Probably because they had papers there to write the stuff down, right? Now they're saying like you should fear the potentials of these ones coming now because it'll destroy everything that we think of about technology. If it even did, this is a good thing anyways. It's like people need to stop like just hiding behind their
Relying so
computers and
much on
all this stuff.
technology.
Yeah,
We shouldn't
absolutely.
be relying so much on technology the way that we do right now. There's good and bad technology.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like they're like, oh, the GPS systems and blah 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 blah. There's all these different satellites and everything. It's like satellites that they actually do have are actually here in the system. We already talked about this before. They're like GPS will be knocked out. GPS is literally just cell phone towers. It's like that just means that they know that there's a chance that the receiving points that they have for energy and impulses and stuff like that might be damaged if something like this happens. Like
They
if
might
this,
short out because of the energy waves that
yeah.
come through. But another, you go. Sorry.
Oh, it's like when you think about it's like as the world is changing, the sun is upgrading, we are upgrading, the earth is upgrading. In time, we're not probably gonna even need cell phones to communicate. It's like if someone's over a long distance or anything like that, you might be able to just send your thoughts to them and they'll hear you and send it back to you. It's like you don't need to be worrying about like this nonsense that we got right now. This is just a temporary thing that we're doing right now because we've been kind of pretty much like locked down from like who we are as people for a long time. They just want you to fear anything that might be different.
I like to use the word upgrade, like we're in like a video game or something.
It pretty much is like a video
That's
game.
how you know that we're talking with a gamer because he was using the words upgrade. It's getting upgraded.
Well, even
Level up, everyone.
even if you're like just a computer person in general, like upgrade hard drives, RAM, all that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay.
But it's like really like these events they're meant to sound fantastical to make people fear them and not understand them, and they have to use all this stuff is, and the reason why they're running and hiding is literally it's the frequency changes.
Okay, so they because they were scared
Yes.
of these frequency changing changes affecting them potentially is what your theory is.
Yes.
Um, and the theory. I mean, the story is yeah, they ran and hid, and the Earth was gonna get destroyed, I guess, and they didn't tell the public. They just went and hid in their bunkers. We're talking about the government here back in 2012. And so now people are scratching their heads like, why did they do this? So maybe this is people should look into it more for sure. But also, people need to change. Like, don't look at it from the whole like round Earth, global warming, climate change, hole in the ozone layer. We're all gonna die because of the sun's X-ray or like
Mm.
you know uh, radiation and blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. That is not where this is going, and that is the mainstream idea of it. And that is what's going to cause a lot of fear in people when they realize that yes, there are more solar flares coming to the Earth, and they are a lot stronger. And yes, the ozone layer, quote, quote, is being broken down, quote, quote, because of global warming, quote, quote. But there's a whole other side to all this, what's happening, you guys, that's not what they're saying that it is, okay? So people shouldn't be fearing global warming or climate change or blah 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 and all this kind of stuff and dying from the sun, okay? Um, but yes, continue.
Like all these things are connected. It's like when you start looking at the dots, like you're saying, it's like global warming. They changed it because like the places it's not just everywhere getting warmer. There's places getting colder and all these other things that it's like. And then climate change. Yes, the climate is changing
That is because
with the
there's
world changing and upgrading itself, and like like
There's.
rebalancing.
Mhm.
It's like that's where these all this stuff is like connected. All these different things are like just little pieces to the puzzle. But it's like it's a hard puzzle to understand if you believe what NASA's telling you about like where we live.
Yes,
Because it
it's a scary puzzle to understand, and it's a very difficult puzzle to understand fully. You can just like look at what they write, all the bull crap that they put in there, and be like, "Oh yes, of course they know what they're talking about because they're scientists," and just believe everything they're saying. And so you don't have to try to understand it, except for the fact that they said that yeah, we're all gonna die at some point. Um, so the main thing is it's a scary thing to
yeah,
understand, right?
absolutely. It's like all of it's literally just fear. Because it's like we're just a random chance flying randomly, and anything and everything is way bigger than us and can kill us at any moment. So like that's where we exist. And that's not even close to being true, but that's what they want you to believe, which makes all these things seem like so incredibly scary. And like you don't, and you see this something like the sun, instead of being something amazing, you're like, oh my god, it's gonna kill us. And like
Yeah,
that's not where we're at, and that's not where we're going to be. Like this, the sun, us, the earth, all of it is
there's,
connected.
there's a nice balance here that we've all disconnected from, that we're trying to our consciousness is this is where everything's headed back toward that balance, and we need to allow that to happen. But it would help if we educated ourselves also on the structure of the truth, basically. um, what was I gonna say? All right, you can go ahead, sorry.
But it's one of the things. It's like a lot of the people that are trying to spread truth and like whatnot, that are out there on YouTube, we appreciate what they're doing, but they also need to pick up some of the extra pieces and understand like a lot of their messages would come across more clearly and better for people if they understand where we lived also. A lot of them don't, because they don't know it. Their channeling experience is very limited because they only can go based on what they know, and that's where like the misinterpretations come from, and that's why we try to clear them up a little bit. It's a little confusing at first, but it's like once you have realized that the earth is flat, a lot of these things make more sense.
Yeah, and that's probably a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. Um, but you're gonna have to start swallowing it if you want to start understanding more, getting more perspective on our reality. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna post Jessica Delmar's link to her channel in our description box in our video here, so people can go to her channel and just look at some of her stuff, because if anyone's into the whole like what the heck happened with the solar flare thing and blah blah blah, and what's with all the solar flares now, what's going on, her channeling explains it a little bit more, but it's from the heliocentric model, so you have to keep that in mind too. So it's more accurate than what we're hearing about 2012 solar flares that could kill everybody, blah blah blah, sort of story. It explains the energy that's happening behind the Earth and the Sun at this moment, where it's going. It explains it, I think, really well. It's just from the heliocentric brain, you know. Um, so if people want to listen to that, they can. And like I said, like we said already, which I still think is really fascinating. Like if we go outside right now and look at the sun, it's literally like probably twice as big or bright that it was at least a year. I would say a
Mm-hmm.
year ago. Yeah. Um, and there's just so much that's different. That if you've been paying attention to nature, you see these differences. Um, and then you can also, people are like, well, the solar flares. I mean, this is another thing people need to think about too. This is just another plug for the whole like flat Earth model. But people think that the sun is a big ball of burning gas or whatever. It's so hot that if it was even a little closer to the Earth, like things would just burn up. I've heard this from NASA and everyone before. But yet it can send like solar flares down to the Earth and that not cause it to get so much hotter. You know what I mean? So this is a lot of things don't make sense. And of course, they have some answer for that. I'm sure somewhere in NASA's bug. Well, this is why this doesn't happen, and we just get the radiation from it, not the heat, which doesn't really make sense. But whatever. You can. It's like how long you want to believe the BS. Is kind of where we're kind of walking that line right now.
Yeah. It's like, and they can tell you a new story anytime you want. Like, and people just suck it up because they're like, well, we're the scientists, we're the experts, and people just like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, no. If you really need to, I've taken a couple astronomy classes at the university, and that's when I realized even more so that this is just complete and utter just BS, because all of it's just like theory. Nothing can be proved except for by them, but they can't even prove it because they don't even want to show it to you or anything like that. And what we were doing in our classes for our experiments, I'm like, this is all doesn't even make any sense. But they're like, no, you just do it. See, you did the calculations like we told you to, and you got the right number, so you did it correctly. It's like that doesn't prove anything. That just proves that I did the calculation right. That doesn't prove anything else.
Wait, but it doesn't it prove that the sun's like a billion. What's the number? 3 billion miles. But I don't know. Whatever. Go look it up somewhere. But it doesn't prove that the sun's that far away.
65 million miles or something like that. I don't remember.
Oh, okay. But anyway, yeah. So, what was I going with the whole solar flare thing? Yeah. So that's one thing to just think about, you guys. Like that, literally something that's a big ball of burning hot.
93 million miles away.
93 million miles. There you go. A big ball of burning whatever hot stuff that if it sends some of this hot stuff here, it doesn't get any hotter for the most part. But then people can bring up, well, what about all the wildlife, the fires that are going on right now in California and Oregon on the West Coast right now?
I can explain that.
People are setting fires. I mean, it could be a lot of things. Because
Yeah.
the thing is, there are things happening climate. Oh gosh. Okay, the environment, the weather patterns are changing and shifting on this planet, not because of global warming or whatever you want to call it, not because of anything we necessarily did, but because the things are changing, okay? And that might cause some weird weather patterns too. So those fires, some of them might be real, some of them might be not. I don't know, but I think a lot of them are purposely started. But here, let me see your theory.
Yeah, they're definitely, a lot of them are purposely started. And the thing is also, a lot of times, nature itself has ways to kind of keep a balance. Like that's why, like, there's lightning storms and stuff like that. They set fires, but what do? We put them out as fast as possible, fast as possible, fast as possible. So we build up this massive, dense area of dry debris.
Also, we've kind of set the place up
Exactly.
for fires if there were to be a fire.
Yeah. So when we set up our own fire, we know exactly how hard it's going to be to stop them because we've been setting them up like that for years. It's like if you set up an entire forest that normally would have been able to like kind of keep itself in balance and regulate
by periodic burns.
Yeah. It's if we keep stopping it on purpose, and then you have this massive buildup, and what happens? Yeah, you can't stop it. They probably could still try, but they don't want to. Like, they just let it just burn up everything, and then they're like, oh my gosh, look everybody, global warming, climate change. It's like, no, it's like they did it on purpose. It's like they know how to stop fires, they know how to prevent this kind of stuff, but they stop like the little ones because they know what will happen if they don't. It's like, yeah, it's a bunch of like playing games with people, and people just like believe it. And yeah, you guys gotta stop.
Like, it's all part of the game. When it comes down to it, it's all part of the game, everyone. But when you know truth, the real truth, like nothing can really shake your core.
Yeah.
Right? Is that how you can put it? And that's why it's important to try to like get to understanding the truth. Or you know what? If you're just happy where you are, again, you can just be there. Yeah. But don't let this story of like solar flares and global warming and all that stuff knock you off your stool because there's not any real validity to it. But do know though that there are definitely things changing about our environment, and we might see some interesting weather patterns just because the sun is getting, but it's not like a sun coming and burning, causing radiation. Like, it's not necessarily that kind of story, but like the energy and frequency that's coming to the planet from the sun and the earth and the sun talking more to each other, it may cause a little bit of increase in these interesting weather patterns or whatnot in the future. I had actually a dream about it, so that's why I kind of wanted to get into that a little bit more. But that's for another time, I think. But yeah, but there's nothing to fear, basically, except fear itself. Isn't that like a quote somewhere?
Yes. It's from
enjoy.
That's from Roosevelt, I believe.
Yeah, enjoy the process, everyone. Don't be scared by what the government is doing. They're scared because they're maybe a lot of them, not the government now. Actually, this was the government like back with Obama, but the government now is quite a bit different than it was then. But so we'll say the people that are still trying to keep control on things, they'll be the ones running and hiding when things start to change, shift more drastically. But don't be scared by what they're doing because they're scared because it may be a frequency mismatch or their physical bodies may not necessarily be prepared for the change in frequencies that are coming and they're already here but also continuing to change. What else?
I think that's a pretty good way to start wrapping that one up.
Yeah, we can briefly mention what is it, the Harris Biden ticket? Not Biden Harris ticket. What was it? Just tell me early what you saw on YouTube or whatever.
It's actually a news article from the interview that they were doing that Harris has been talking about like her being the president, and then they were like, wait, what? And she's like trying to back up now about like talking about the Harris agenda after she becomes president.
I'm like, that's gotta be really embarrassing to Joe Biden. You would think, but as Trump says, sleepy Joe Biden, he doesn't really know where he is half the time. I know this is not funny to make fun of people, but the thing is, you have to see the humor in it because it's just ridiculous what's happening right now in politics. You have to admit it's ridiculous. Okay, we have the current administration with Donald Trump and all the people that he's helping and they're helping him and just what's going on right now. We're moving in a positive direction. There's lots of orders and stuff being put in place to really make things better for humanity. If you actually really look at see what's going on, what's being put in place, and things have already changed obviously in the last 4 years that people aren't necessarily paying attention to if you're a Trump hater, blah blah blah. Okay, so you have all this going on, and then on the other side of the coin you have creepy pedophile senile Joe Biden running for president, and then you have now his running mate is Kamala Harris, who I don't know. I think at one of the debates, the Democratic debates, she like tore him apart pretty much verbally, and now she's his running mate. I'm just like, what the heck is going on here? And she doesn't have a very clean, like, if you look at her politics and whatever, I was gonna say whatever country she runs, whatever state she's been a part of, like, the people there say that she hasn't been doing a good job. Like, she's been screwing people over and stuff, you know? So she's one of those, what do you call it?
Kind of people.
Yeah, for the money, corrupt politicians. There, she's a corrupt politician, all right. And then, so yeah, this is what people. This is the other option right now. It's like, come on, you guys.
Yeah.
It's laughable. Okay, we know where this is going, and it could be more corruption as trying to like finagle, trying to get Biden to win, or who knows. I don't know what's going on there, but we know anyone in their right mind wouldn't vote for Joe Biden and Harris, obviously. And that's, I think, across the board where most of the world is right now, unfortunately. As much as they would like to not think that that's... Alright, I lost. My train of thought is gone now. I'm checking out.
Yeah, it's a good thing to think about. Also, it's like as the world's changing, it's like, you know, it's becoming very easy to tell like one side is like very corrupted versus the other side not being. It's just one of those things that's changing and it's for the better. And we'll go ahead and wrap that up.
Yep. Everyone, have fun, enjoy life, do the things that you like doing in life, and just realize everything is going in the positive direction. Don't be scared of the sun. All right. Peace out, everyone.